talk about Gus Malzahn.
Sure.
Do you support your football coach?
No, like the morning.
No,
Just want to get right into it.
Go right into it.
Sure.
And, that's a hot topic, and just your thoughts on Gus and where he stands, where you stand.
Yeah, I recognize that football and Auburn football and the standing of a coach is a hot topic, considering we're not really where we want to be and not where we expect to be. But as I've shared with Coach, my responsibility is to support him and his team, and we'll continue doing so. We'll continue working to get better.
Alan, have there been any conversations with him about job performance, about him and the staff?
I don't think that you ever should have to have a conversation about a coach about job performance. They know exactly what's expected of them. And again, it's just about making sure that we're doing the best we can to put our student athletes in the best possible position to be successful.
Obviously, as an AD, you have a standard that you want your coaches to perform up to. How has Gus measured up to that standard?
Yeah, well, I shouldn't have to be the one to answer that, right? I think every one of us who is a former athlete or a coach expects more than anyone else expects of us. And so when you don't have the outcomes that you desire, then that's a frustrating thing. But he's committed to working through it. I'm committed to being there with him, and we'll continue the grind.
Now, there's a thought among, I think, some Auburn fans that they're not so concerned about this year, but especially the future. How do you assure the Auburn people that marching forward, going forward, Gus is your guy, and everything's going to be okay in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, there are elements to when teams are successful, and then there are also elements to when teams are not successful. And unfortunately, we're going through a period of time right now where not everything is clicking. And so part of our responsibility is to make sure that we're getting the right things in place, right? Sticking with that process and understanding that this isn't a week-to-week deal here. I know that the fans go up and down depending on the outcome of the game, but it's our responsibility to really look downfield and making sure that we continue to put the pieces of the puzzle together to be successful for a long time.
Are you a hands-off boss? In other words, you let the season play out and then you get into the season?
Well, Gus and I meet every week, and we talk in between. So, and I'm out of practices. So there's nothing that's changed in that regard.
What is the feedback that you're getting from fans and boosters about this season? What are they telling you? What's the vibe?
Well, they don't have to tell me anything. I already know, right? I'm sitting there watching the games like everybody else is. And it's certainly frustrating. When you think about all this time, effort, energy, the coaches, the staff, the trainers. And we had an 11 o'clock game, right, this past weekend. Our game was at 4:45. So we're all in this, and we're committed to being successful. That's really disappointing when it's not. So again, we'll keep on working at it and just keep on plugging away. That's all you can do.
The basketball program at FBI continues. Are you confident?
Claude Allen Greene IV is the current athletics director for Auburn University. I think Claude Allen Greene was probably one of the best hires that Auburn could have asked for coming into what Auburn had going on. He had a lot of experience. Had a chance to get some assistant athletic director experience at the University of Mississippi and was the athletic director for the University of Buffalo. Once again, it's K2 to go for Vernon Speak Sports, mostly talking about Auburn football and the rest of the SEC. I want to give a shout out to my fearless and true gang. Ever since I could remember, I've been screaming War Eagle. I think Auburn is in a pretty good position going forward. They have a great athletic director in Claude Allen Greene, better known as Allen Greene. I think he has an incredible resume. He's actually a pretty young guy, born April 10th, 1977. Only 41 years old, out of Seattle, Washington. So obviously, being in that environment, he probably didn't know coming in how important, the culture of SEC and Auburn football is. But he did get a little taste of it at Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is just not Auburn. You know what I'm saying? Ole Miss, they get what they can get. You know what I'm saying? A 7-win here, a bowl game there. But Auburn is right in the middle of competition with the University of Alabama and the University of Georgia, to where those are your most heated rivals and those are your most successful rivals. So you have to put yourself in a position to compete with them every single year. Now, I'm thoroughly impressed with Allen Greene. I look back to the interview that he had when, things were literally falling apart at the seams for Auburn and Gus Malzahn after the Tennessee game. And I could tell that he was clearly, irritated. The reporters pretty much jumped on him right out of the gate, basically wanting him to talk about, whether Gus Malzahn will be fired and things of that nature. But what I did appreciate about Allen Greene was that he was very candid about where Auburn was at that point and very candid about what was going to happen moving forward. Of course, from a business standpoint, when you do already have a coach in place that is not about to be fired, you want to make sure that you give them as much support and as much coaching and guidance as possible. Because I know I'm actually a business in operations management. And when I look at this, when I first enter a situation, I have to look at what has been allowed prior to my arrival. You know what I'm saying? Those are things that you want to consider. Gus has made a lot of mistakes. But at the same time, Gus was under the watch of an athletic director that could have, kind of helped to shift and guide certain types of mentalities and philosophies. Gus Malzahn doesn't make all these decisions on his own. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. I'm saying this at even a surface level of operations management. That's why when you look at this thing, it's a little different from back in the Pat Dye days and the Vince Dooley days when you actually had the wherewithal to be able to be a head coach of a football team and be the athletics director at the same time. That is all but non-existent now because of the different deals that are going on, the different neutral site ball games that are going on, different scheduling, things that have to happen in all the diverse sports in major college Power 5. It's almost impossible for a Power 5 coach to also be an athletic director because of the business logistics of where college football has gone. There's a lot of revenue that comes through college football, and at the surface and at best, the athletic director has to be someone who does protect the business interests overall of every single program and every single student athlete that is involved. Okay, now let's get to Gus. Now, there's a lot of decisions that have been made and a lot of different things that have happened that, because of my own personal experience, leads me to believe that Gus is not being puppeted, because I don't think that's the case. I think Gus is a relatively intelligent guy, because you got to be an intelligent guy to have spent most of your career as a high school football coach and be the only coach in college football right now that stands toe-to-toe with Nick Saban. Kirby Smart was supposed to be the savior for Georgia, and he ain't beat Alabama yet. Gus Malzahn has actually beat him twice. Well, really 3 times, because he beat him again in the national championship year in 2010. So there's a lot of mitigating circumstances here. Now, let me tell you what mitigating means. Mitigating circumstances mean when there's something bad that has happened, but you have a lot of good that kind of helps sugarcoat it, right? So when I look at Gus Malzahn, he's got a lot of stuff that sugarcoats this. And when Allen Greene walks into this type of situation, he's looking at, okay, Gus Malzahn might have gone 8-5, 7-3, whatever he went. But let's look at the positive side, okay? So now, when I looked at the interview for Allen Greene and Gus Malzahn, when Allen Greene interviewed after that Tennessee debacle, and he talked about how he and Gus Malzahn met once a week. Okay, so when you're an athletic director and you got a head football coach who's making $5 million a year over one of the better programs in the top 15, 16 programs in college football, when you meet, you're not just meeting just to drink coffee and, maybe, drink some bourbon or pass the hookah and all that. You're not meeting for that. You're meeting because we need to dissect where we are and where we're going to go moving forward. And one of my favorite questions as a business operations manager that I want to ask a person who's had a long tenure in their position, and Gus Malzahn, I would think, has had a long tenure. I would want to ask, okay, Gus, there was a time when I'm Alan Greene right now. I don't know what they talked about, but I'm just assuming based on what the result has been, because it's been different than what it has been prior. So I'm going to ask Gus Malzahn, okay, Gus, now there was a time that you were very successful. In 2010, you were very successful. One of the better offensive coordinators in the country. You went over to Arkansas. You were very successful. You led Arkansas State to a Sun Belt Conference championship in your first year coaching. Also, at Auburn in 2013 and 2014, you were one of the most productive offensive teams in the country. There are a lot of teams that absolutely could not stop you. As a matter of fact, in 2013, pretty much after the loss to LSU, you became a force in college football that couldn't be stopped with your run-pass option philosophy. What changed for you? What were you doing then, Gus? And why did it change? And then if I'm Gus, I'm starting to think about it. Like, what did change? What was different from that time? Ding, ding, ding. I was calling plays at that time. I was anchoring the offense. I had all those little signs, and I was on the sideline, and I was moving my hands, and I had direct control of the offense. Alan Greene then says probably, Gus, you have to continue to do your work. Because I remember I wasn't here, but as an athletic director, I'm going to do my due diligence and research how we got to this point. And it looks like in 2015, 2016, you tried to take on the Nick Saban. That's not your niche. You're not Nick Saban. That's not how you run. That's not what makes your program effective. You have to have a hands-on approach because your offense is brilliant when you are running it. And the sad part about it is you can't let another offensive coordinator with another philosophy come in because you're not going to be able to do that job. So this is what I think you need to do. You need to figure out a way to not necessarily get rid of Chip Lindsey, but I don't think Chip Lindsey wants to stay because Chip Lindsey will never be able to accentuate his possibility as an offensive coordinator as long as you are here, because you are a great offensive coordinator and you know your offense will work. Chip Lindsey is not about this kind of life as an offensive coordinator. So Chip Lindsey winds up taking a job at Kansas, and now he's the head football coach at Troy State, which is excellent for Chip. But Chip and Gus, I think they're probably buddies outside of work, but their philosophies don't match. So what do? You go and get you a Kenny Dillingham who can help you develop quarterbacks, help develop the offense scheme, and then on Saturdays, you call the plays. That's what you're good at. That's what got you where you're at. You're not a CEO type coach. You know what I'm saying? You need to be calling the plays. And guess what? Coach Gus Malzahn made the decision after the Alabama game, going into the Purdue game. You know what? I'm going to call plays. I did a preview. I need y'all. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put that in this podcast. The video I did with Auburn and Purdue, and how I thought Gus Malzahn calling plays was going to make the difference. And boy, I was more right than I thought I was. Gus Malzahn and his staff thrashed Purdue 63-14 in the best effort in Auburn, maybe college football history, in a bowl game. But you gotta know that Gus Malzahn had some influence in making that decision. He had to go back to what worked. Every now and then, guys, you gotta go back to what works. Understand, you want to elevate and you want to do it, but you gotta go back to what works. And what worked for Gus Malzahn is him calling plays. Another thing, never in the history of Auburn football that I know of, outside, I think Tracy Rocker was a coach back in the day, but in recent history, Auburn has not had coaching staff members who had direct relational ties to Auburn University. Carnell Williams, Cody Burns, and Travis Woods were members of football teams that were highly relevant and have helped to manage college football's perception of what Auburn football is now, and they were directly a part of that process. I think that was brilliant. Not sure who catalyzed that decision, but I know the decision wouldn't have been made if Jay Jacobs would have been there. So we gotta acknowledge the back end, behind the scenes impact of Alan Greene. I think Alan Greene has helped to see where Auburn is from a non-biased perspective. Once again, it's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speak Sports, mostly talking about Auburn football and the rest of the SEC. Got some more videos coming. Got that recruiting video coming really soon. Got some great recruits this year. Like, comment, and subscribe. And also look at the video where I preview Auburn and Purdue based on the Gus Malzahn making the changes as far as him calling plays. You all have a good Monday, man. It's beautiful out there. If you got some good shoes on, take your ass out there.